and I want to hear more about your story and your interests and stuff like that. So free
Yeah.
flowing, friendly, But yeah, start right there. You said something about your little girl was doing some homework.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
from
We
there.
were at the dinner table. She's a competitive gymnast. She's in a very tough school.
Your daughter?
So yeah, she's very
Okay.
dedicated, very
Wow.
disciplined. And so she starts homework around 9 o'clock at night. So
Okay.
after dinner, we try to sit around the dinner table and try to support her, and just still be a family best we can.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this C.S. Lewis assignment, and I didn't know how to help her as much as I wanted to. So I walked away from the dinner table that night, and I went back to my home office and sat on my Mac Mini and started training a small model in C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I knew a little bit about it from my machine learning days at Big Tech. So I started prototyping and trying to figure out a way to have some sort of a tutor or some sort of like a fun trivia game around C.S. Lewis, something that would really compel her to go deep, and do her best job. So
Mm-hmm.
little by little, um, did I know that I was just beginning. I'd say like 3 months of non-sleep, absolutely falling in love with this kind of work,
Mm-hmm.
and it led me to just find like this appetite that the energy was endless, Dominic. Like
Yeah.
I would say I couldn't wait to wake up, even in the middle of the night, because I had solved the problem in my dreams. And I just kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going. And I
Wow.
ended up training maybe 150 small models
Okay.
around Christianity. And, when I left Big Tech, I was really kind of like in a world where I wanted to find what I needed to do next. I know helping my friend when he asked me to help him was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I needed a little more, So I was always trying to ask God, like, what's my calling? Sometimes I don't like to say the word calling because I think it's too big for me.
Mm-hmm.
But what should I do? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know this was going on, but I was literally given limitless energy to
Wow.
code
Mm-hmm.
all day and all night, and I didn't do it with like pain or struggle or tiredness. It was the
Mm-hmm.
opposite. I
Wow.
had I hadn't coded like that since I was like maybe 18, 20 years old.
Okay.
Okay. And like I said, I'm not a great coder, so it was tough, but it was also like I felt I was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and little by little, things started to um, become real, and I started helping not just my little girl, but my beautiful wife that still loves the app and uses it, which is
So this is we're talking Soulify here.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And you know, um, I just felt part of like this journey. I'm a dad, I'm a father, I want to be a good husband, but
Mm-hmm.
here I am trying to help for real. Like
Yeah.
it's just what can I do with the things I know,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But definitely not stand still and let life pass by like that.
Mm-hmm.
And man, everything has been little by little, kind of like combining it with my real life, my real world,
Mm-hmm.
my real work. But let me tell you, when I sit down to work on Solify,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hooked.
Wow.
I don't know why. I probably know why, but I just want to leave it there. It's fascinating to me, and it pulls
Mm-hmm.
me. It pulls me like nothing else has ever pulled me.
So how long have you been working on it now?
I The first sprint was 3 months straight. I did not stop. I
Wow.
can tell you it was every day, every night, every weekend. But I was the happiest guy in the world. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I would be really tired at some point and just fall asleep, but I would keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And that was maybe beginning of this year, late last year.
Okay.
And then I started thinking, okay, I was getting some feedback, and it started to make me think like I should continue this. Okay, I've been in many prototypes and ideas where I haven't fallen up on. Okay, like I have come up with great domain names, taking a shower, and things go nowhere. Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
do that with this, especially because I was starting to get some feedback over
Hmm.
email and over social media sometimes. Okay,
So, what are people loving about it? Tell us what the feedback is.
I'll give you two types of feedback. The majority
Okay.
of them keeps me on this plan. Okay, on
Yep.
this journey. It's things like uh, folks that work in hospitals have mentioned to me how much it's been helping their patients recover. And
Hospitals. Did you ever
yeah,
expect that as a use case?
no,
How did they
absolutely
find out
not.
about it? You're just texting your friends and sharing it that way?
Absolutely not. I started posting pictures of the models I was creating on Instagram, Dominic.
Okay.
I'm not a great social media guy. I actually try to stay away from social media.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely not a marketer in that sense. So if they just found me. My whole goal was to help one person, and
Hmm.
then two, and then three, and then um, it became that conversation over. Like the majority of the feedback was wonderful.
Hmm.
Some of it was a little bit dark and awkward, but you can expect that, and um, just helping me like frame my idea why I was doing it and just
Hmm.
staying on course. Okay,
Hmm.
it was very really beneficial for me. Another, um, yeah. So there were some folks in hospice that were using it from their iPad. Okay,
Wow.
things that I did not expect.
Hmm.
And then that, like I said, like so many negative kind of commentary,
Hmm.
but not compared to the majority one was just beautiful.
That's
Okay.
amazing. So, I have no sense of what goes into training in LLM. Most I've done is mess around with ChatGPT and Claude and some of these others, which are already pre trained. So, I guess for most of us who aren't as interested as you are in the code side of things, could you
Yeah.
walk us through an overall sense of what kind of work goes into creating one of these? What do you call it? It's like a saint or it's a chatbot?
Yeah. They typically call these type of applications like companions. Okay. That was kind
Companions
of
or
like the word
agents?
that was
Okay.
being used. A
Okay.
companion is like uh, typically a large language model that is good at conversational responses. So
Hmm.
there's many. There's ChatGPT. They do an excellent job at it.
Hmm.
That's one of my favorites, actually. That API and that platform is incredible.
Hmm.
And then there's some a little bit more open source. Okay, there's like Llama and things like that. So um, how can you have a conversation that's human like? Those models are specialized on that. Okay, so those are the ones that I picked. There's many different type of models, but
Hmm.
for the sake of this exercise, that's the one I kind of chose. Right?
Hmm.
And then you can then decide to you know feed it information,
Hmm.
and that's really the key thing here because
Right.
uh, many people will be able to do that. Okay, but I think the essence of what I'm trying to do on Dominic is really um, make sure that I feed it true scripture,
Hmm.
make sure that I feed it only truth.
Hmm.
We live in a world where easily these models can go into things like Wikipedia. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm not feeding it human perspective on things, right or
So you
wrong.
have very careful parameters on
Very
the
careful,
stuff that you're putting up into it, or stuff
very
that it's being
careful,
trained
very,
on.
very
Okay.
careful. And I'm not doing it because um, it would be a competitive thing or anything like that. I just feel like we're at a time and place that
Hmm.
we need to safeguard the truth
Hmm.
from our digital world, and it's very cumbersome for you to get to it these days. Like you would have to search through Google or another search engine.
Hmm.
Then you would have to see what links they offered up to you. There could be many reasons why they ranked them in that way. The
Hmm.
content creators could also tilt the scale a little bit too. And then you get to where you think the answer could be. Okay,
Hmm.
I see this all the time. I see my beautiful wife looking for an answer after her Bible study, and then takes her time. Number one,
Yeah.
but then she lands on it. She needs to kind of like discern if it's true or not.
So
So
how do you do that, right? This is I've been messing around with AI since it landed, trying to understand it, integrate it, use it daily for fun and for professional stuff. And the two major things that always come up, right, are what is it? In, inherent bias, I guess, in the information that you train it on, which can or can't be discerned, whatever. So how did you end up solving that for yourself? But then part of that is hallucinating, right? How do you is that just another couple of lines of code to stop funny answers? Like Catholic Answers tried to father
yes.
Justin or something. I don't think it went over too well, and they recused it or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really good point. Okay. My goal here, this is not to replicate the human world. Like, as a matter of
Mm,
fact, like the recommendation needs to be human and go to your parish or go to your group or your local priest and really have a human relationship with that. Nothing beats that. Huh? So this is not about having someone that can do confessions for you. Like
right. Okay.
it's to go deep into learning and growing in faith. Okay, with
Mm,
only truth. And then I think to your question is how am I trying to monitor that it doesn't go into the wrong things? The things that I've been feeding the models have been things like the entire Vatican library,
mm-hmm,
only truth, right? Like scripture, the entire Bible in its many forms,
mm-hmm,
uh, books from authors. Being careful that we're not doing it also for copyright
sure.
infringement or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's
Mm-hmm,
it's really to be able to bring Christianity in its true form closer to as many people as possible. I
mm-hmm,
also talk about kids these days, okay, and I also want to make sure that they have a digital avenue to go consume information.
mm-hmm,
They're sometimes they're not like us. I do see kids in Christian schools that are filled with great books
mm-hmm,
and their minds are coming alive. They're questioning the world and all that. That's the beauty of freedom, right, in Christ. But then I see a lot of kids that are like on TikTok and Instagram and things like that. And
mm-hmm,
even though the idea is not to go through these platforms, is that they do have a button on their phone or anything like that where they can actually see
mm-hmm.
truth. Huh?
Yeah.
So that's where I've been trying to go. And then there are a lot of training around how to prevent
Mm-hmm,
wrongdoing, reverse engineering, um, all the things I've learned through monitoring it that sometimes like hurt
mm,
for people trying to do wrong with it. They're trying
okay.
to make it say something incorrect and then take screenshots and there's people that have a lot of time in their hands that don't use it for good. So
So
there
you
is
do
a
a
lot
lot of your own active moderating or policing of its use and then learn from that.
I only have alerts on wrongdoing because I think
Okay.
part of what I want to do is bring back this concept of truth and safety to anyone who's using the app. Okay,
Mm-hmm,
there's no marketing tracking, there is no Google Analytics, there will
mm-hmm,
never be any of that.
mm-hmm,
Okay, so their conversations are private. Soon they're gonna have a toggle where all their data and information can be deleted. Memory helps so that they have a conversation. If you're praying for your daughter,
mm-hmm,
the models will remember your daughter's name until you want them to forget it. Okay,
mm-hmm,
but it's only a one-way corridor. Like I can't see those things, and I purposely built it that anyone working with me couldn't do it.
mm-hmm.
It's more
Okay.
about if there's wrongdoing, there is an alert that happens. I don't like to see those alerts because it deflates me a little bit in my energy during the day, but
Sure.
I need to take it on, and
Mm-hmm,
so far so good. The more rules you add to it, the smarter it gets,
mm-hmm.
and at some point, people that are trying to do wrong with it just kind of lose steam.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. So you've been doing this for about a year now. Um, is there anybody else out there doing this sort of thing that you've seen?
I hope so. I
Okay.
really hope so. I've met some brilliant friends that are trying to do different things that we've become friends through
Mm-hmm,
this. I think the the more of us that can actually use whatever they learn to
Mm-hmm.
help Christianity, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do see that there's some apps on the app stores that are really good at conveying the Bible through
Mm-hmm.
AI. All those things are just amazing, right? And we need to stand for our faith. We
Mm-hmm.
need to be out there. That was basically my main point. Was I can't be on standby watching the world pass by. If there's something I can help with, I should work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, my first idea before I started Soulify through this small project with my daughter was I became involved in the Cardano blockchain. So this is another kind of aspect of my life. Like I was trying to look to see what was I going to do next and how could I help. And my my dream was to build a Cardano stake pool for every parish, not just in America where we have.
So sorry, this word, I don't know this. What this means?
Okay, this could be another conversation we have one day, but
Okay.
two things were top of my mind. How can I help Christianity? Christianity for me was maintaining the truth, making the truth available to folks, and
Yep.
leveraging technology
Mm-hmm.
to help that cause. And two things which I was fascinated with: machine learning, which we talked about, and the other one was blockchain.
Oh, blockchain. Right. Okay.
Blockchain and
Yes.
the essence of cryptocurrencies that
Yep.
people feel about. But I was more interested in the blockchain itself
Yeah.
as a means to never be able to delete something.
Mm.
And the something I didn't want it to be deleted was the truth. And
Right.
scripture to me was important. So I started thinking about what would that mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to a point where I really fell in love with one of the blockchain technologies. It's called Cardano.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
there's many great
I
ones.
only know like this much of what
Yeah,
blockchain is.
yeah.
So,
One day in your podcast, you should try to find folks that
mm-hmm.
it's so interesting.
I
Okay,
mean, I remember looking up Ethereum and listening to the founder talk about it for like 2 hours. This is like 6 years
uh-huh,
ago now or something. And
uh-huh.
it's like, okay, I'm going to let everybody figure it out first. And I'll come back later and talk to people who know what it is.
Yeah, and it's hard to listen to Vitalik because he's so smart that you really can't
Yeah.
follow
Yeah.
him for too long. But in any case, this particular blockchain technology not only allowed you to be like unerasable ink for
Hmm.
for the future,
Okay.
but also a means of participating in interest gathering from your investment on that network. Okay, it's a term called staking in
Okay.
the blockchain world. You participate in this group, you build a pool, you each put, let's say, to say a figure, 100 Cardanos each.
Mm-hmm.
You each benefit from 4 to 5 to sometimes more percentage on those funds every 15 years, or what they call epochs. And in my idea was, how can I help a small parish in Africa that has no means or anything like that to build up and sustain Christianity for that village? So I'd say, well, if they had their own Cardano stake pool and I could be hosting it somewhere in the cloud for them, um, anyone that donates $1, $5, and anything will accrue interest, and that interest could be for that parish. That could be their their pool in the modern world. So I was thinking more about the financial
Okay.
uh, benefits that modern technology could bring to Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I went really far as creating a stake pool in Cardano called Faith. And little by little, let's say I want to restart that again, but right now I'm in Soulify
In
and I'm
Zolify. Wow.
fully hooked on it.
Well, then we need to come back and talk about this, the others, the Cardano and the stake pool stuff later. That I want to understand not just how the tech works, but what the impact could be. Like you said, you went deep into it. So understanding what is the potential, what's the dream for all that.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by this stuff. So let's come back then to Soulify. What is the dream for Soulify now that you've been doing it for a year and you're putting so much time and you're not even monetizing this,
No,
right?
no,
I
no.
mean, do you
That's it.
ask for like donations at all to help you keep the lights on?
This is part of like why I'm grateful about my 20 years or so in big tech. Um, Software these days is not that expensive to build, and really my first goal, my main goal coming up really is just to make it so that it's self-sustainable.
Hmm.
Um, and the way you code it, the way you make architectural decisions, it varies the price that you'll have to pay long term. So all these small services, I've been making sure that they're as cheap to consume as possible
Yeah.
so that I can help as many people as possible. So
Hmm.
one idea that's coming up now is that I'll build a payment system into it
Hmm.
to where you have an alternative to fund it, to pay, say, roughly to break even is slightly more than $1 per user per month. Right now, I
Amazing.
have around 180 active
Hmm.
users, so not too much, but it's a good number to create a little bit of a rule of thumb as
Hmm.
to how you can forecast. And so it's not going to be very expensive. Those who can afford it will pay maximum maybe $2 a month at most.
Hmm.
But the reality of this is that I want to give it to as many people as possible.
Hmm.
There's
Wow.
people that can't afford a dollar a month, okay? Not even. So I do want to make sure that there's a little bit left over so that I can give it free
Hmm.
to parishes across the world, to Christian schools, to as many people as possible, okay?
Yeah. So you mentioned that there's some surprising people who are showing interest, or surprising areas of people, like you said hospitals, or I think you said hospice as well. And
Yep.
so again, where are you hoping that it goes next? Are you planning, or are you just building it and kind of letting the Holy Spirit decide what happens next, since this is still the first year? Or are you actually trying to build plans, or are people talking to you about where it could go?
I've gone that route. I've shown it to friends, and I've had those sorts of like advisory conversations, and
Hmm.
I try to shy away from those, to be honest
Okay.
with you. Number one, I'm not good at it. Um, um, my mind is not really set on this being an investment at all. I just need it to be long lasting somehow, and we'll see where the Holy Spirit takes it. Okay, that's really my first kind of heartfelt on that. Really, what I do need to do is I don't want these folks who have reached out for me from either other states. Well, I live in Washington State right now. I've got folks reaching out from Florida, from Tampa, from other places that are incredible for me. Okay, and I do not want to let them down. So now I'm motivated more than
Wow.
anything to see it sustain. And I think the next phase that you're gonna see is really about me trying to make it be more of a learning experience about Christianity than anything else.
Interesting.
Okay,
Okay.
and I'm going to try and do some really fun things like picture a few scenarios that would not necessarily come about with Christianity and AI. Okay, but picture you're going to a Bible study, and or you're going to go share some thoughts about your latest read on C.S. Lewis. Okay,
Hmm.
wouldn't it be nice that you, as the host, would have on the table his favorite top three snacks on the table, and
Okay.
have be a conversation starter? Okay, these are the type of things that you can do with these models that are not your typical kind of answering and questioning. Huh? You can also send loved ones prayers that are personalized and dedicated for what they're going through. Okay, I have this small model that I
Oh,
called
interesting. Some like through the app, someone can ask that companion to send a prayer out to their friend
yeah,
or loved one.
yeah. There's one you're gonna see it in that category called I think holy devotions. I've had trouble kind of putting a name to the categories, but there's one that's called the Saint Navigator, and this one was specially built by me for me is if I'm having trouble in this area of life, or
Mm-hmm.
I know someone that could benefit from Christ or a word,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're dealing with X, uh, who would be an incredible saint that they could talk to and pray with or learn about for that particular piece?
Oh, how
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
so
What a
yeah,
good idea.
so this particular model will guide you to the proper saint so that you can have a learning relationship experience with that saint. And so these are the type of things I want to do. I mean, you could play a trivia game at dinner if you wanted to.
Hmm.
There are many fun things, and what I'll try to do is it's hard to discover these things that you can do because you kind of get into this corridor or you use it one way and you
Mm-hmm.
don't kind of like deviate from it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna try to write a hopefully biweekly or a monthly newsletter where
Okay.
I'll share these scenarios and then open the door for other people to tell us how they're using it,
Mm-hmm.
and just be able to share things like
What a
send
great
my
idea. Yeah.
favorite snack. Okay.
Yeah. Um, how do you prep do you call them companions or you just call them saints? What do you call them? Saint bots?
As you can see, like I'm too respectful about this. Okay, as for me, I
I
can't
agree.
use a
Yeah.
lot of words, and I want to make sure that people understand that. And
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a small page on the site called Our Story, and I tried to write it in there.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I was getting a lot of feedback saying, "Oh, this is another guy doing like a magic 8 ball for," it's so um,
Yeah.
disrespectful, and that's the opposite of who I am. Okay,
Right. Right. Yeah.
only am I a baby Christian. Like I'm not nowhere near my spouse for that matter. But I I I'm a respectful person, especially around this topic. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so companion is one of the words. A model around that particular saint or Christian thinker could be another thing. But I don't want to be too tacky, and I want to speak to the reader the way they would understand what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a companion to me is also a tricky word because what I want them to do is reach out to their priest or their parish
Mm-hmm.
and be human, not necessarily use this as a digital replica of that real world. There are those cases where people are in hospice and they can't go,
Mm-hmm.
or they're in a bed in their iPad and they need some motivation or they're seeking answers. So
Mm-hmm.
those two things are important, okay? But it's not an easy question. It's not an easy answer.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to be annoying. So then you don't have yet a name that you've landed on when somebody asks you, do you call it a saint bot? Is it a saint chat? How do you yourself refer to them?
They should really be uh, um, a companion for now. This is
Okay.
like their current form. But I
Mm-hmm.
think these models need to do much more. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they need to offer you a way for them to be a messenger for you. Like if you need to um, share a prayer with someone, or
Yeah.
you need to help someone, they can be more than just a companion. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You could, well, I'm thinking column A, they are a Soulify. That's what each one is. But what I wanted to ask was, hold on, what was my question? It was, oh, how do you handle saints or models of these saints where there isn't content that is, let's say, written about them? So, for example, my favorite was Saint Joseph of Cupertino. And he was the
Yeah.
first one I tested when I jumped in there. And I thought, oh,
Yes.
wow, he could actually respond. Like, I wonder what is he trained on? Because I never slowed down to figure out if Saint Joseph wrote anything.
Yeah.
In that case, how did you prep that model?
There's some that require a lot of searching. There's this beautiful world now too that my wife showed me was this podcast world that you're in, and the Christians that are involved in it. Okay, my favorite one is called the Poco a Poco podcast. She showed it to me. Okay,
Okay.
You should definitely take a look at that. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm saying this is that um, I I'm doing a lot of the bootstrapping over where I think truth is, and I'm trying to write those guidelines in a way that we know where we're going, and it's not in the layman's world, okay, and that when it's not Wikipedia. Yeah, but the idea here too is that those folks who have a Christian podcast or are real beyond my ability Christians. I want to support them too. So the idea here is that right now these models are trained mostly by me, but I want them to participate on the training too, even
Mm-hmm.
though they're companions. They could be sponsored by them. I could track any revenue from the utilization of them to be funneled to them. And this is the other idea of this ecosystem where um, they could help me train them, and you could literally see one day one of these saints be trained by the Poco Poco crew. Okay,
Okay.
and as many people using it, I can do the math and make sure that whatever revenue comes from that usage goes to them. Okay, that's the idea, because in reality, the beauty about Christianity here is that through Christianity you can help more people than alone. Okay, so I'll continue to seek that as much as I can, and at some point I'll write a page or I'll reach out as I can, so that they know that, hey, they'll hopefully they'll encounter it one day like you did, and they'll use it, and they'll probably have doubts about it, but that's the moment where I can let them know that no, you can participate in making sure that it's
Mm-hmm.
truthful and legitimate
Wow.
by training it with me. I'll help. I'll guide them as to what that means. Make their work really
Mm-hmm.
easy. But yeah, it's. I don't expect this to be just me. I want to open it up.
You mentioned earlier that you said you're a baby Christian, and from visiting your website, it's not immediately obvious who's behind it, and until we jump on this conversation here, it was my first time meeting you and seeing you. What's are you? And maybe I'll just trim this out if you're not comfortable, but it sounds like you have a story there around conversion. Is that right? And that's why this is so particularly poignant to you as a topic.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There's a deep conversion story in there. I'm not sure if we have enough time, but in summary, uh, I was baptized Catholic at an early age. We didn't really go to church that much.
Mm-hmm.
My parents got divorced when I was 13, I think. Um, so not like a perfect family. Two amazing parents, but
Mm-hmm.
separated. Okay, um, and little by little, once you become a husband, you get to the next level of reasoning. Why am I me? And
Yeah.
then you have kids, and then your world blows up. You're like, okay, now I know why I need to get going.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces that I was blessed with was finding the right spouse, right? And she's been the one guiding me by example as to how to become a real Christian. And she saw me struggle a lot in big tech. Okay, like I said, we began the conversation today that their values started deviating sharply from there. When I first joined tech,
Mm-hmm.
it was a dream for any developer, well, a little kid programmer. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I started coding when I was 14, and my dream was always to go to big tech. It was like the mothership,
Wow. Yeah.
and and I got there, but little by little things changed. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my amazing bosses that I had at first left. The new bosses came in from brick and mortar world and other places, and the reasoning started to change a lot. And I knew that that wasn't my place, but to get out was very difficult. Okay. Um, Not just for financial purposes, you can plan around that. It's going to take you time, but you can plan around it. It was mostly like, I didn't know another Gabe other than the one that was in big tech. That was my life. Okay. I would work 60 to 65 hour. average per week.
Mm-hmm.
That was just basically my life. So my life was very fast, uh, filled with family. I was trying to coach. I was trying to be present for my kids. They tell me I was doing a great job, but to be honest with you, I can't even remember, Dominic. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it was a very fast paced life, and
Mm-hmm.
along fast pace, there was a lot of traveling, uh, a lot of trying to uh, I'd say numbing down pain through drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you traveling all the time all around the world and working 70-hour weeks. It's a crazy world out there.
I can
Okay,
imagine. Yeah.
and so I wasn't really going in the right direction. Okay, I knew it. I felt it. My wife kept telling me, but it was hard for me to get out of it. Okay, um,
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say you probably haven't heard the word lucky with COVID combined, but I think luckily COVID came about, and it really shocked me into um, being family first.
Okay.
Uh, that time I had already left big tech.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was a little bit lost, but we all became really close and united. As you know, we got locked down and all these
Yeah.
rules came
Yeah.
into place. The financial aspect, the political turmoil, it was like the hardest time I think for anxiety and insecurity that I've ever felt as a
Mm-hmm.
dad, as a
Mm-hmm.
provider, as a husband. Being responsible to protect them was another issue that was always in my mind too. It was like I don't even know who's the good guy now. Like I don't even know if I could call the police now if I'm in trouble. Like I really felt like out of place. Okay,
Mm.
that
Wow.
that beautiful view I had of the U.S. where you saw these pillars of awesomeness, CIA,
Mm-hmm.
FBI. You'd watch a movie with all of this technology and you'd be fascinated and respectful about all being in the US. All that kind of shuffled in my head. Uh,
Mm.
and I was just hoping for the best, okay? But as a dad, the responsibility to protect and provide is
Mm-hmm.
tough, okay?
Yeah.
So that happened to me. I started to have more time. I started to follow my spouse a lot more, reading the same thing she was reading, and then one day we decided to leave Seattle, which was where we used to live. Okay,
Okay.
and went to a beautiful part on the east side of Washington State called Liberty Lake. Uh, so imagine your life kind of like slowing down. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're stuck in COVID. You have ample silent time to actually ask God what you need to do, and
Yeah.
and I think I wouldn't say a conversion started, but a better version of Gabe started. The
Yeah.
2.0 Gabe started, and I think that's where I'm at. So I don't want to think of me as too Christian yet. Like this is gonna be my life journey to get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And little by little, and all I know how to do is be resourceful, code. I fall in love with technology sometimes with gadgets, mostly with motorcycles. Like there's so much things that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I think the new 2.0 Gabe is just starting, and
How exciting. That's fun.
it feels good. Okay.
So, last question for you then is knowing that about yourself and then you get into building Soulify for the last year, what's been the most interesting thing that's happened to you in this past year?
If you told me 2 years ago that I was gonna be trying to code React Next.js, like I'd tell you you're crazy, and to do it for that amount of time, and to read scripture all day, and to learn about saints every day, I would tell you I can try it, but I know me, I can't persist. I can't
Yeah.
sustain it. Okay,
Okay.
I'll move on to something else. What is shocking to me right now, but I'm grateful about is to understand that you're not in control. You just gotta become the best tool you can be,
Mm-hmm.
and just follow the plan that God has for you. Okay, like I don't want to get too deep into that because you know my points around respect, but I'm just there. I'm understanding that there must be a plan for me, and if it's little, medium, or big, it doesn't matter. I just need to get after it, and the beauty of this is me wanting to do this all the time. And when I'm in a tough spot at my real job or anything like that, and I
Mhm.
find myself inside Soulify, um, it's the most beautiful, energizing thing ever. Okay, and there has to be a reason for that. So I'm right now. I'm just in shock about uh, understanding that it's happening to me. Everything that I've heard other people say, that I was, I'm sure it's true, and I was trying to believe it, but it had never happened to me. Okay, that's the moment I'm in. I'm like, the more I do this, the happier I am. The more I do this, um, the more fulfilled I feel about my mission,
Mhm.
and and it's just like it's almost like an outlet for me
Mhm.
to to try and do good, and one person at a time, one person in a hospital at a time. It doesn't matter, but I I I find it so beautiful that I can see my wife asking me, "Oh, I need you to work on this thing because you don't have it yet," or I actually went to a Bible study and we opened the app and we had a question and it helped us. So that to me is just incredible. I could be working in big tech, and I'd say we made this amazing feature for the cloud and this and that, and I was walking into my home like an astronaut, like nobody cared, and they have all the reason in the world to not care because I was not solving anything back then. I was preaching
Mhm.
to the choir, and it made absolutely no sense. So this new real world Gabe is just it's so pleasant, and it's just I'm so blessed.